Kajal, and welcome to my esteemed panelists for this discussion today. As the topic suggests, this is going to be a chat that you will be able to experience between three technology stalwarts in very, very different industries and how they are foreseeing the future of women in tech. So let's get started, and let's first set some sort of a backdrop and background into understanding why this conversation is important. Yeah, we all know, as we heard from Dejani's address today, as we heard in the previous conversation also, that the world is going through a major digitization where technology skills are going to become important no matter which industry you're in. Partha, could you share a little bit with us on why you feel it is so important that women are also equal participants in this tech journey?
Great question, Neha. I wanted to check my audio is good. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, that's great.
Okay, perfect. Look, I will just say that if you look at this career, if you look at this industry, the consumers of this industry, and consumers everywhere, 50% are women. And therefore, it is very important when tech is the important enablers of our lives in this decade, that women have a greater role to play in how technology is shaped. And that's why it's just so important that we have women in leadership positions in the technology industry. If you look at stats, and I was actually looking up some stats, if you look at stats, India has the highest proportion of women in engineering colleges. I mean, though the number is less than 30, it's higher than what we have in the Western world. And as they grow up in their careers, these are the women that would lead this industry in the right way. And there are so many wonderful role models of very, very successful women in this industry. And they are doing wonders for the companies that they lead in India. If you look at Rekha Menon, you mentioned Debjani. If you look at Nivruti Rai, if you look at Sindhu, if you look at Vipin out here, if you look at Shubha out here, they are role models for women in this industry, and they're very visible and very, very successful. It's just the natural conclusion of the fact that bright young women coming out of engineering colleges need to find careers, and the industry needs to adapt itself to have more women coming in and joining the workforce here. There are a lot of things going for this industry. It is an asynchronous type of work, which means you can choose the hours that you work. Now with COVID, you can work from home. And that's been one of the best outcomes. It's a sad thing to say, but it needed a pandemic to push that button. And that just opens the whole world up for women who may have caregiving responsibilities at home, but then you can combine both and make this a career of choice. So those are some of the points that I thought very relevant to today's context and the subject that you're discussing today.
Thank you so much, Partha. Thank you for setting that background. If we feel that the technology field is so well aligned with women's skills and qualifications, I'd love to hear a little bit from Shubha and Vipin's personal journeys on what are these different obstacles that come about in women's careers that stop them from rising further. Because the numbers speak for itself, right? I mean, we have only 25% women in tech. If you look at your top big companies, which are really leading technology, like Facebook, Google, Microsoft, Twitter, they have only 20% women, and these are building the products and services for all of us. So Shubha, can you share with us a little bit about your own career journey and what are some, and maybe the other journeys that you've seen around you, and what are some of the obstacles that are coming in the way?
Yeah, certainly. Can you hear me well? Cool. So to me personally, what I see most is stereotypes, right? So in my own career journey, I've been fortunate enough to be in places that were highly respectful of women and had several great programs to sort of make sure women are successful alongside men and so on and so forth. But that said, there are certain things that are still quite common. One is the the stereotype. And when I say stereotype, it's I think because we are so conditioned from our school days and from what we watch on TV, whether it's ads that are all sort of men are driving cars and women are selling soap or whatever the case may be, or using laundry detergent. So that stereotype gets conditioned quite a bit, I think. And so that has been one of the biggest things that I have experienced throughout my career in terms of, when you imagine somebody deeply technical, when you imagine a scientist, when you imagine somebody that's awesome software developer, or great technologist, always a certain image comes to mind, and it's hard to break that, right? And I think as a woman in my career journey, I have experienced that. I'll give you an example. So not in my current job, but in my previous role, I interviewed over phone first, and I heard later on that they had pegged me at a certain level, and when I came in person and had an interview, they pegged me much lower, like 3 to 4 levels lower, right? It was like 1, 2, 3, 4, that kind of a level. So I joined. When I joined, I made a fuss about it, saying, why are you offering me something at such a low level? And then it was like, oh yeah, you prove yourself, and then we can figure it out. But then very quickly, like in 6 months, both sides realized that this was just not the right level, and in the next promo cycle, I ended up sort of getting bumped 3 levels up, right? So, and that happened because one of the senior most people that I was working with was a woman, and I don't think it would have happened if it weren't that. So in my experience, stereotypes is the most.
I have to interject here, Shubha. When you were being recruited for that position, on the interview panels, was it all male? Were there some women on those interview panels?
All male.
How did that play out? So there was some sort of bias that crept in. But do you also feel that many times there's a bias that women also have when it comes to other women?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I mean, the stereotype thing. I'm guilty of it as well, right? When you imagine certain roles in certain positions, it's hard to break what you're already conditioned to. So other things I would say are just, I think the way we do our own narrative, and you mentioned in our previous conversation as well, that, after a certain point, people tend to sort of pivot towards delivery and project management and product management, those types of roles from a women perspective. And I think that's a large part of it because of the narrative that we create ourselves. And I've been through the same journey in terms of my own career path. The last one I'll leave you with is the 8-year syndrome is very true, right? So I have had people in my family, all women have worked, including my mom, and she was a radar engineer. And this was in the 70s that she hit the 8-year syndrome and she quit. Whereas all the other women in the family who were non-tech, who were more, teachers and, in sort of government jobs, they didn't quit. And I keep thinking about this. 50 years later, we're still talking about the 8-year syndrome. what's really wrong here, right? And from a tech viewpoint, I also think about why is it that only my mom left, but the other women in our family didn't leave and they got up to retirement. And I think it's the role models issue that comes up, right? So we really don't have that many people in the ecosystem to speak to share with, and sort of get past some of the things that we might be experiencing. I'll leave there for Vipin to talk through as well.
Great, super, Shubha. Thank you so much for that. Vipin, what do you feel? Do you agree with some of these obstacles? Are there others that you feel also come in the way?
Yes, and I totally agree with Shubha. One of the things, Neha, which I have experienced is that we are doing a good job when an entry-level jobs is considered, right? We have women presence when we see at an entry level of the jobs. And recently, a woman on board study has even mentioned that India is especially doing well when a woman on board is considered. We see around 14 to 15% women in the boardrooms as well right now. But there is a problem in the middle management when women are trying to become managers or senior managers. There is a high percentage of women which are dropping their career at that point of time. I believe it may be their lack of their personal support system or the professional support system. And that is one of the biggest problem right now which we have, is how do we fix that broken rug. So we do not have a healthy pipeline of women from bottom to top. There is a lot of focus at the top, there is focus at the entry level, but how do we create that ecosystem of support from end to end, especially when women are moving to managerial level, when women are moving to senior manager level. That is one of the things which is a problem right now. And there are many reasons because of that problem. One is what Shubha has mentioned, and there are a lot of unconscious biases which circulates on our mind, and those circulate on women and men both of. I'll give you an example. Like when I travel with my husband, if a woman is driving a car, my husband will immediately say, slow down, you know. And I was very annoyed. Why are you making the statement? He says that women generally do not have a sense of space. And imagine those kind of stereotypes which build on men or women when they are hiring women. If a woman is around 25 years old, they say if she's not married, they will say, oh, you know, this is her marriageable age and she will take off, she will ask for flexible hours. If a woman is around, if she is married, then they will think, oh, she will have a child and she will go on maternity leave. We have to pay 6-7 months of paid leave. And even, you know, for the senior leadership position, women, many people think that women are too soft spoken. They are very emotional. They cannot take those hard decisions. So imagine those unconscious biases that are circulating on our mind every day, every time when we are interacting with women. And these women, you know, these are our obstacles. They have to, so these obstacles generally men do not face, but women face. So every day they are supposed to prove themselves that they do not belong to these all unconscious biases. I'll give you an example from my career. It was in 2000 when I started my career. There was a very good project and on latest technology. I wanted to work in that project. I went to my that manager and asked, can you take me? And he was like, no, I do not have any woman in my team. We are going to work 24/7. We have to be in office at 2 a.m., 3 a.m. I do not want to get into a hassle that I have to drop you, I have to arrange security, all that. And he says that we do not have time for all this kind of managing these overheads. But I was adamant. I continued to pursue him that give me one chance and I will never disappoint you. Finally, you know, he gave me, but imagine the stress I was having. I have to overcome all his thought process and I have to prove that I'm the best. Means I was able to prove it. And then he took many more women in the second phase of the project. But imagine the stress and the obstacles I faced during that time. So those unconscious biases are circulating all the time around us. And, you know, means this is something, you know, which is external environment. I would also like to share with you some of internal where women are responsible themselves. So yesterday itself, I was talking to one of my junior and she mentioned that, you know, there is a very important project which her manager is giving her. And it is very on latest technologies. And she says, I refused. I said, why have you refused? And she mentioned, you know, I'm not sure whether I can give that kind of time. I'm working from home. I have child, I have family commitments. I said, how many hours are you working every day? She says 9 hours. I say, if a project is easy, how much time you will work? She said 9 hours. I say, if a project is difficult, how much time you will work? She says 9 hours. Because then what is the difference? We see, we do not want to come out of our comfort zone. And that is the problem within ourselves. So I believe obstacles are outside world and they're also internally within ourselves.
Yeah, fantastic, Vipin. I think that was really well articulated. And I completely agree with you. I see this all the time because we deal with companies as well as women. And we see enough problems that need to be solved in the entire ecosystem. And I would love to now move this conversation from a company point of view, right? So Partha, I know with my conversation with the AGS team about the fact that you all have managed to have a very significant jump in the number of women who are part of the AGS team over the last few years. Can you tell us a little bit about what is it from a company point of view? What are the different initiatives, programs that a company can run to be able to, one, increase the number of women participating in the workplace, and two, also to increase their performance, to increase their acceleration in their careers?
See, in 2015, our gender diversity ratio was somewhere 23%. And, that's not a number that I'm proud of. And I don't know why I have been around for a long time, and I don't know why this number never struck me. So I call that my Rip Van Winkle sleep, that I was sleeping all this time. So when I got that number and I said that this is not on, then I started probing. And then I realized all of what Vipin and Shubha just said. The way we were interviewing people, the biases with which the women are being selected, the kind of questions that were being asked in the interview, it would turn people off. And you need word of mouth for an organization to be considered inclusive and good for women. And we were losing out big time. So we attacked it there. We just went on a blitzkrieg of sensitization, things that you cannot ask at interviews, setting up goals for diversity goals for managers, saying that these are the numbers that you have. I want these numbers to move up. In fact, I had given a goal, I think in 2018, I had said that across the organization, we need to be 50% women. We've reached 44%. I've not been able to reach the 50% number, but we did manage to do 44%. From 24%, we've reached 44% in about 4 years. And it's been a fantastic journey, especially sensitization of the organization to what we were doing wrong. And I think now there is a word of mouth which talks about AGS being a very, very women-friendly organization. So 3 interventions that we do. One was the whole sensitization piece, the unconscious biases, making sure that that's a no-no. I mean, if I hear this or if my leadership team hears this, I mean, that person will be taken for task. I mean, it's just out there, okay? We do many kinds of role plays, dramas of how these things work out on the floor. Okay, what kind of languages you use, smoke breaks, what kind of discussions you happen at smoke breaks. So there is continuous role plays. We ask professional theater artists to come and actually demonstrate how gender bias works on the workflow, okay? 2, we've got 2 programs. One is moving people up from a team leader to a managerial program. We call it, that program is meant to groom young leaders. And some of the things that she talked about, many of the fears that women have on progressing, if you leave apart the ecosystem, our fears are about, is it good to be ambitious? Should I really have an ambition to grow in this organization? Will it come with extra hours of work? And can I spare that extra hour? Will I have the support system that I need at home to be able to put in those hours? Those are fears of failure. And we try to address that by saying that it is okay to be ambitious. It's okay to be asked for a pay rise. It's okay to ask for a promotion. And those things we realized was so important because, we realized that these young people have never really asked anything for themselves. They've just been pleasing others in their family and their peers. They've never asked anything for themselves. So just that threshold of saying it's okay to ask for yourself. This program does that. And now we are trying to do something for the middle management, which is getting the people who are in the assistant manager level to aspire to be senior leaders. Because one of the things that we find that 44% is largely skewed at the entry level. As you go up the chain, the numbers kind of slope down. We've tried to fix it at the top level itself, but it's the middle layer that we lose a lot of people who once they come to their maternity, they don't come back. We're trying to fix that to see how we can get those people back. It's almost like, I think the Rekindle program was what the previous speaker talked about. How do we get people back? But I think COVID has really given this wonderful opportunity of being able to reach out to people who have caregiving responsibilities and get them to work asynchronous hours. I think that way it's been it's been just a wonderful moment for work at home that we can now attract the talent pool who has other responsibilities and therefore can't put in fixed 8 hours at work. The flexibility that comes in with it is ideally suited for women.
Fantastic. Partha, I think it's pretty clear from what you said that it's not just one initiative that can lead to the kind of jump that you all saw in your women participation. Yeah, if we want to see more and more women in the workplace, we have to look at it from a very holistic point of view. Starting from sensitizing recruiters to colleagues, to hiring managers, to bosses, and the women themselves. How do we get them to think about ambition in the right way? So moving the discussion, and I know that Goldman Sachs and Pepsico also, in all our conversations with the teams, the kind of fantastic initiatives they have in place as well for women, not just who are coming into their companies, but also who are currently in their companies. But Shubha, what I would love for you to talk a little bit about and tell our audience today is what are these kind of opportunities that have opened up now when it comes to women in tech? Yeah, what are and keep in mind that in our audience we have women who are at the starting level, we have women who want to restart their careers, and we have women who want to rise up the ladder. So can you elucidate a little bit about the kind of opportunities that exist for them given this COVID era that we live in?
Yeah. See, my view on that is that there aren't any sort of boundaries to these opportunities, right? It's unlimited in terms of what women can join and influence. So, going back to some of the first comments that were made, right now it's about the internet, it's about mobile, it's about data, it's about cloud, it's about automation, you name it, it's all out there, right? And Mr. Buffett making an investment in Snowflake is testament to like how important all of the technology world has become. So to that extent, I'd say there aren't really any boundaries. I don't think we need to be thinking about this type of work or that type of work in terms of figuring out opportunities. It's an open field. It works for anybody that has a certain passion and has a certain skill set to develop on. So to that extent, I would make the comment that the field is wide open. I don't think there is any particular boundary there. But to what Partha also mentioned earlier, that the asynchronous aspect and the virtual world has actually enabled to make sure that we have more women that are joining these and joining technology, and without having to worry about what they might have earlier, which Vipin also mentioned in terms of the commute time and so on and so forth, right? So from that perspective, I would say at each level, look at what is it that you're most passionate about and start exploring those opportunities. One thing I will point out is we do yearly returnship programs, and this year also we kicked off our returnship program, which is like the rekindle program that somebody was speaking earlier. It's a 12-week internship that we do, and we decided to do it in the virtual environment as well. Maybe because it's virtual, our number of applications have literally like quadrupled, right? So maybe that's the kind of trend we will see in the virtual world.
Fantastic, Shubha, and I totally agree. Even at JobsForHer, we've actually, we hear such bad news happening outside about women dropping out even more from the workforce because of the double burden, etc. But we are seeing even a renewed interest in women to actually lead into their careers and get that double income in, and accelerate the career journey. So thank you for highlighting the fact that the field is wide open for women, no matter what stage of the career they're in. Vipin, can you tell the audience a little bit about what it will take for them to be able to prepare themselves for these opportunities? Is there a certain amount of skilling required? Will mentorship help? Will networking help? Can you break that up for us?
Yes, definitely. I think the first important point is that we need to build our personal and professional support system. Important, especially when we are working from home. So we need to ensure that at our home, we take full support from others and we ask for help. Many times we women, we restrict ourselves and we are not very good in asking for help. we have our partners with us, we have our in-laws, we have our neighbors. So there is a big community around us. And many times women think that they have to do everything on their own, like especially raising their kids. Many times women say that, oh, I have done every task of my kid on my own. So we should come out of that thought process. It is okay if other people can help us, right? And we need to, generally in olden days it was said that a child is not raised by oneself, it is raised by the entire village, right? So we need to create that ecosystem of support around us at home. And similar ecosystem is very important in our professional life as well, right? We need to create our friends at the workplace, we need to create an environment of positivity around us. And also, we need to understand that there are no shades of black and white, there are shades of gray all the time, right? And we need to accept that. We need to be large hearted, even if people do not have various different views from us, we need to accept them. Generally women believe that it is right or wrong, but we need to understand that it is important to build relationships both in personal and professional. That is the key and foundation to build a strong career. The second thing which I would like to talk out is that we have to be lifelong student. We have to every day learn, unlearn, and relearn. And COVID itself is giving us a big learning. Survive, fittest will survive, right? Means that is the rule of nature. Nature automatically picks up the people which are fit, and that's true in any world. Even in technical world. If we do not have the right skill set, we will not survive, right? And to build the right skill set in this dynamic world when everything is changing, we need to pick up those skills and with the right speed. I would like to talk about the speed, because if we are slow in learning this skill, we may not exist. And there is a lot of things which are happening, AI, data science, collaboration tool, and COVID has acted as a catalyst in moving all the organizations to adopt the digital ways of working. And this is a great opportunity for us. Like now organizations are looking at work from home, flexible hours with a very positive mindset which has never been historically. Now this is the time we need to grab this opportunity, we need to upskill ourselves, and we need to ensure that we are ready for the future.
Great. I hope all of you listening to this feel as motivated and inspired as I do when I've heard the three of you. I'm going to stop hogging the mic and let Kajal ask you some of the questions that have been coming from our audience. Kajal, on to you.
Hi everyone. Thank you, Neha. Let me jump right in and start with our first question. We have a woman asking, is it a good decision to switch careers from a non-IT one to one in IT? Being a BTech IT graduate, she got into the HR field after about 9 years of experience. Would that work for her?
Yeah, I mean, I can start from my viewpoint that there are many folks that have made that switch, right? So if that is something that interests you, and if tech is something that interests you and you want to move, there are quite a few opportunities these days. There are ways to come into that field through product management discipline, through certain technical design and certain architecture discipline that you can come through. There are very senior folks that I know of that have been in operations type of roles, that have gone into deeply technical roles like in AWS and so on and so forth. So again, no limits.
Thank you, Shubha.
I would just like to add there that I'm a chemical engineer and I switched to IT.
Thank you, Vipin. All right. So I'll move to our next question, which is from Savita Kiplani to all panelists. Would you be able to comment on why there are no jobs from home or flexi jobs for women who are in senior leadership levels?
I think that will completely change, Kajal. Work from home is going to be the next tsunami coming. That's going to change the nature of work. Look at the productivity gain that you have. I mean, I live in Bangalore. Commute from any point of Bangalore to any other point is easily between 3 to 4 hours, and I save that much amount of time. So with technology now enabling work from home, every role is going to be open. So I have worked from home since middle of March to now, this is what, September, and I'm the CEO of the company, and I've not stepped into my office since February 28th. My entire leadership team who run the global operations of the company have not stepped in office since mid-March. So this is therefore transformative. And every role, starting from the CEO to, you name it, is going to be available for people who want to work from home.
Sure.
This is going to transform. This is going to transform work for the future forever.
Yeah, it sort of already has, right? COVID has just brought everyone to on the same level, and has shown us that it's possible for anyone and everyone to work from home and still get it all done.
Yeah.
All right, Shubha, this question is from you for you. We have someone who they say that the finance industry gets extremely intense at senior leadership with life events. It becomes tough to get back and push the gears to get back. What are your tips or any support systems that the industry provides, which we can leverage?
Yeah, certainly. I think Vipin made a great point earlier in terms of the 9 hours of work, right? I think we have to start deciphering in our own heads as to what is it that we say is intense, or what is it that we say is difficult. And once we start to decipher that, we will be able to say, okay, now I can slice it in a manner where, okay, these are the things that I think I can do even as I get back and ramp up to a certain extent. And these are the things that I will, the firm will wait for me in order for me to get to a stage where I can do ABC rather than XYZ that I can do now. So I think just having that faith, having the ability to slice and dice to say, okay, why am I thinking it's intense? Why am I thinking it's not possible? And then making sure that you have the right conversations on the company side as well to say, okay, this is the give and take moment that we have, and this is how we're going to move forward, right? Making that very deliberate conversation is what has helped me over the course of my career in terms of many of these life things. I hope I answered the question.
Sure, thank you. Thank you, Shubha. And we have a question from Annapurna Swaroop, which is for all panelists, and it is particularly on the comeback programs being offered. She wants to know if there is any limit on the age of a woman, or are you open to having women who are even above 45 years of age?
As far as I know, there is never any age discrimination for any job. So I'm pretty clear of that. That's not a discrimination at all.
Sure.
We are looking for skills, and whoever has the skills.
Absolutely.
And the great thing about online learning, and again, it's gone accelerated by what has happened now, is that if you really want to upgrade your skills, it's not that difficult now. It should be possible for people to actually sign up for new skills that are very, very relevant. So even if you have taken a break, it's possible to catch up by learning from home and then upgrading your skills and coming back to work.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Partha. We do have another question where we have Tanya Dere, who's it's to all panelists. Is it okay for a returning mother with an experience of over 8 years prior to her break to switch to a new career path during COVID when jobs are scarce, or would it be advisable to pursue roles that were similar to those done before the career break?
I believe that it is always what do you want, what you aspire to do, what are your career aspirations. And and you have to upskill yourself. You have to be ready for the challenge. It is not about COVID or pre-COVID, right? There is no dearth of job for the right candidates. So if you are competent, if you have the right skills and you know your job, and even if you want to learn new skills, if you have confidence in yourself, I do not think that there is any dearth of the jobs. So it's better that we need to be sure what our career aspirations are and move towards them ASAP.
Thank you.
Kajal, I would like to ask one last question to the panel before we close this fireside chat. Is that okay?
Yes, absolutely, Neha.
Okay, great. Thanks, Kajal. So just in closing, we had a lot of different discussions today, heard a lot of great takeaways and insights from all of you. But I'd love it if you could wrap this up by sharing one particular key piece of advice that you would have for a woman who either is starting, restarting, or rising in a tech career. Partha, maybe we can start with you. What would that one piece of advice be?
I think it's a great industry to be in. And the good thing is IT actually is all pervasive. So it doesn't matter what your basic education is, whether you're engineering, whether you've done finance, whether you've done liberal arts, whether you've done sciences, IT encompasses all streams of work. And therefore it's very, very inclusive in what kind of educational background you come with. It is also, I would say, of all the industries, I would still call it a sunrise industry. Its people practices are still way ahead of some of the industries that you would have seen, which has been around for a long time. In India, this industry has been there for three decades now. Let's say if you consider 1990 to be the start, and we are in 2020. I think the strides that the Indian organizations have done, the strides that multinationals have started operations in India have actually brought in, it creates career opportunities for everybody. And it's a very, very exciting career. There are no limits, and please don't limit your ambition. You can rise as much as you want. And I once again want to refer the names that I've taken earlier. You've got role models like Rekha, Nivriti, Devjani, Sindhu. You've got Shubha out here. You've got Vipin out here. These are role models of people who've been extremely successful in this industry. So the sky is the limit. Please come and join.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Partha. Shubha, can we hear from you?
Yeah, sure. So I'd say for folks who are starting, make use of the hackathons. Just get yourselves immersed in open source community, all of that. I think that always gives you the right kind of exposure. Mid-career, take advantage of events like this. Join many of the fora that are out there, and the cohorts that are out there. That network always helps to talk to each other. And last but not least, stay in the game. It's not 0 or 100. There are 99 numbers in between. So unless you've explored those, don't quit.
Fantastic. Thank you, Shubha. Thank you so much, everybody, for being with us today. And we can definitely see that we have a very clear roadmap to ensure that if the future of jobs lies in tech, then women are going to be a very strong part of that future. Thank you. Thank you for making the time.
Thank you.
Thank you.